hearing to order, and we'll get started. Just briefly before we start, I want to, I guess officially, Dr. Ogeron, welcome you back. I think it's the first time you've appeared before us in the budget hearing, and like to welcome the staff. And just to be expeditious, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, it's good to be with you this morning. Let me do a couple quick introductions. We have Stephanie Hedgepeth, Holly Sobignon, and Brian Norwood from our team. And
Welcome.
it sort of covers the gamut from strategy, budget, administration, and technology at ITS. So we can delve in any of those questions should the committee see fit. ITS has a mission that is unique in government, which is shared technology services. In a federated model where we have agencies that have IT staff and dollars to do IT, our core mission is to figure out ways to do that in the most effective and efficient way possible. So the things that ITS does, from a statewide network that all agencies are on, all universities are on, all community colleges are on, and 72% of K-12 schools are on, to enterprise cybersecurity, to running a Tier 3 data center that UMC is in, the Department of Revenue is in, all driving records are in, to procuring technology across the state. That is our core mission. I jokingly tell the staff that you could sort of describe ITS like you would good behaviors in kindergarten, which is we're about sharing, right? We're about building things that we can share to most effectively use tax dollars in the state of Mississippi. So the core part of our budget, of course, supports those legacy services that we have, whether it's data centers, enterprise cybersecurity, a state network, any telephony or telecommunications that the state does. But what I want to talk to the committee about this morning is our 5 key strategic initiatives in 2025. So upon returning to ITS, as Senator Williams said, it began July 1st. I did a 10-year stint as the executive director prior to that in a long career in public service. I think my goal in July was to sort of assess where we are. And I embarked initially on meeting with the top 30 agencies. So the top 30 agencies in Mississippi government, as you would imagine, spend about 98 to 99% of the IT dollars that the legislature appropriates. So I sought to sit down with each of those executive directors and understand where they were going, what their strategy is, and what their pain points are, not just with technology, but specific to ITS. And you'll hear about some of that as I present. I think in the middle of the fall, I began to come to a realization of where we needed to go and what we needed to do. And that's what I'd like to present to you this morning. A couple of key metrics to get started. So overall IT positions across government are up about 3 to 4%. But here's an important metric. Spending on technology in government through dollars that are appropriated by the legislature is up 22 to 30% over 3 to 5 years. Now, I'm biased in terms of technology. I think that is a good thing. I think that our agencies using technology is a good thing. The things and the ideas and initiatives I'm going to present this morning really mean that I'm seeking to have the Department of Technology aligned with that growth in technology in the state. So by way of example, in our procurement function, we are misaligned from a business perspective. So agencies are spending 22 to 30% more on technology just in 3 to 5 years. We have to have the capacity to be able to help agencies do that. That is our job. So to that end, I'll jump right in by saying there is a request that we have in front of you for about a 12% jump in salaries and FTEs, and I'll kind of go through the areas that is, and about a 10% jump in contractual services. I want to be sure that those data points are connected to the mission that we have, and the mission that we have is connected to the growth in technology in our agencies. So let me dive into the 5 key initiatives. The first one that you'll see in your list is modernizing procurement in the state of Mississippi. Technology procurement in 2025 is not what it was even 5 or 10 years ago. as you can imagine. Technology is pervasive. It's part of every single thing we do at work and at home, and not just the pervasiveness of it, how it is rendered. Cloud technologies, artificial intelligence. And so ITS acknowledges the need to modernize, period. We acknowledge that there are frustrations in agencies getting the tools and services that they need. To that end, not only are we doing things inside of ITS, implementing new models to procure software as a service, the majority of which lives in the cloud, to implementing project management tools and transparency. We have done those things in the fall of 2024, but we also decided to set up a procurement modernization advisory council. And for the first time in our history, invite agencies to the table to have a conversation about how we modernize these things together. That is critical. It is something we haven't done before. Our first meeting was December the 19th. Now, at the same time, part of doing procurement different is in our legislative budget request. Most technology conversations boil down to people, process, and technology. And I do believe that there is a misalignment with the growth of technology in the agencies and ITS's capability to do what we need to do from a procurement perspective. The second item on the list is artificial intelligence. Many of you saw that the governor signed an executive order last Wednesday on AI in state government, and it really directed ITS to begin to look at the ethics, the data privacy, the efficacy of how we can put this technology to use in our agencies. Now, this technology is moving quickly. So here is a metric. It took ChatGPT 5 days to get to 1 million users. The next closest platform was Instagram. It took 2.5 months to get to 1 million users. This technology is moving at an unbelievably rapid pace. As you can imagine, all of the big technology providers have solutions, and they are marketing those solutions. That's what they do for a living. So we want to implement the order that the governor signed. In doing so at ITS, the Friday of last week, 2 days after the governor signed the order, we rolled out an artificial intelligence innovation hub, a partnership between ITS, AWS, and the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network, which is a partnership between Mississippi State University and Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. That is live, it is available, and will be part and parcel to what we do with AI. Our third initiative is a cloud center of excellence. Of the 5 initiatives, the rendering of solutions via the cloud is probably one of the most significant paradigm shifts in the technology space. ITS was created by the legislature in 1970, and we have run data centers since then. We have a Tier 3 plus data center at our facility off Ridgewood Road. In that data center, we run every medical record at UMC, every driver's license for citizens across the state. We run tax systems for the commissioner at the Department of Revenue, among many other systems of record in government. How technology is rendered will change, and cloud will be the tool with which that occurs. So our third initiative is for ITS to fulfill its mission in leading technology in the state, in building solutions that agencies can share. And our goal is to set up a cloud center of excellence with the right skills, the right people, so that we can have those conversations with our agencies. At the moment, we have access to AWS via the cloud. After being at the agency for several months, the team had already been working but finished access to Microsoft Cloud, and we met with Google, and we will be building out access to Google. So in about a month or two, ITS via secure and expansive networking capabilities will have access to the big 3 cloud providers. That should send a message, and the message is we want to innovate with our agencies, and ITS wants to be the agency of yes when an organization in state government needs to do something innovative. Our fourth initiative is digital services. So this past August, our Mississippi.gov e-government portal, I'm proud to say, was ranked fourth in the country. In 2020, it was ranked first in the country. We have 425 services on that site. The fourth initiative suggests that we want to double down in using technology in partnership with agencies to be able to make citizen services available across the state. We've had great success in doing that, and a digital services team and aligning that team appropriately across government is a strategic initiative. It is about the technology of tomorrow and how we deliver it across government. Our fifth initiative is the creation of an innovation fund. ITS currently assesses a very small percentage of our procurement vehicles that the private sector uses. Many other states assess a small fee. That small fee has typically been collected and rendered to the general fund. We're putting forth just an idea for discussion about creating an innovation fund whereby those dollars are set aside and specifically used to move these other initiatives forward, to move initiatives like AI, to move initiatives like cloud forward. Those spends would never be large, but they're going to be the thing that opens the door so that the agencies can innovate and do what it is that they need to do. As you can imagine, a technology workforce and expertise in government is a tricky piece of business in 2025. It's a tricky piece of business. We're very grateful to the Personnel Board for the reclassification of IT positions and the modernization of those. The most recent one was a public cloud job class, but that recruitment is going to be challenging. We're very grateful to the legislature for progression dollars to be able to have and create positions and get those positions staffed and salaried at least level two, mid-tier level two, so that we can have the staff that we need at the agency to lead these initiatives. To that point, from a workforce perspective, whether it's AI or whether it's cloud, I think we're sort of sitting at the dawn of a different way to deliver and use technology in the state. Given that, I really want to stress the need for ITS to be ahead of that curve to the fullest extent possible, so that we can, in 5 years or 10 years, roll this technology out correctly. What correctly means is that it is vetted, it's procured correctly, it's procured transparently with adequate competition. It works like it says it's going to work. It protects citizen data. It is transparent. But most importantly, we are leveraging shared services to the fullest extent possible. That is our core mission. The more we can leverage and build things that agencies can share, the more we can come back to the legislature and tell you what it is that we are doing. We do not have an omnibus technology budget. So despite the state probably spending upwards of $400 million, right? How do we acknowledge and understand how and where those dollars are getting spent and what services they're getting spent on, right? And I think to be able to do that well, we want to understand what that is and build services that are shared, that the agency executives can use to develop solutions that drive their business and drive their business as effectively and efficiently as they can with technology to drive costs down and effectiveness up for our citizens. Let me take a breath there, Mr. Chairman, and we'd be happy to delve into any of those topics or answer any questions the committee would have. And we have our team at ITS that can help do that.
Okay, thank you. That's a lot. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
First, I want to, a lot of people know I've worked closely with you guys over the last 6 months, last 9 months, as you started to try to create these programs, your top 5 priorities. So I want to commend you and your staff for doing that. Y'all have done an excellent job. A few questions. Try not to ramble. Start with procurement. That kind of seems to be the elephant in the room right now because it's getting the most attention.
Yes, sir.
As you've heard me say, PIR, perception is a reality. That's one of my things, and there's a lot of movement around that, and it's not an easy thing to fix. But and as we visited on this, trying to reduce the timelines in procurement from the time an agency requests to the time we are actually deploying the services. Can you tell us as you go down this path, a timeline of when we think we can do that? You know, we've used examples of procurements that may have taken 3 years. We think on the other side of refining this, we may do that in way less than a year. Is that something we'll be able to implement in the next 6 months, next year, or can you tell me something absolute?
Sure. So the standing up of the Procurement Modernization Advisory Council, which began on December 19th. The top 30 agencies were invited to the table. We had executive directors show up. We had a full room at ITS. The
Good.
goal is to create a 2 to 3 year modernization roadmap and to do that in 6 months, right? So the creation of the roadmap will be in the next 6 months. The clock started ticking December 19th. Right?
Okay.
What we want to do is gather feedback and momentum from the agencies that are sitting around the table in terms of the changes that they would perceive, having a dialogue that ITS has never had before of the changes that are needed. We also have friends in a lot of other states, specifically Texas, specifically Tennessee, specifically North Carolina, where best practices are happening. So there are lots of ideas that we can harvest to do that. Let me set that aside for 1 minute. There have been changes to code last session. There are changes to code this session that we are talking about with the potential of tweaking what is in code in terms of procurement. So to be really candid and straightforward, there have been conversations about the protest policy for procurements and other things from a timeline perspective. So I want to iterate that those are active things that we are doing. This is not analysis paralysis. There are changes in code that we are talking about that happen in the 24 session that can happen in the 25 session. The Procurement Advisory Council, Chairman, is meant to really be bigger picture and holistic, right? This roadmap will sort of typify where we're going to go so that we can communicate it to you, to agencies, and track it. So the intensity, we're going to have monthly or more frequent meetings starting in December through June, July. All of the agencies in those core and extended groups are going to be part of that. ITS is going to have help in putting that roadmap together. Once it gets built and we have the feedback and momentum, we will continue to not only brief the legislature on the changes that are coming, but we will continue to communicate and engage with our agencies on a quarterly basis on how these changes are being rolled out. Let me take a breath there and say, that's a bigger picture view. I think it's important for the legislature to understand that whether it's the implementation of a brand new procurement vehicle in December that we are calling New Cloud, to extending express product lists or renaming them to a different sort of express procurement vehicle that's out there. We're looking at redoing cellular. We're looking at redoing hardware. There are multiple other real initiatives happening underneath this engagement with the agencies. So I don't want the legislature to get the feeling that we're putting all of our eggs in this procurement modernization basket and nothing will happen until it's a both and not an either or.
So as it moves, we'll see implementation things happen. When you had that meeting the 19th and did you have all your big agency heads or representatives there?
Yes.
Key stakeholders? What was the reaction? Was everybody receptive to where you're going?
My sense was it was very positive.
Okay.
My sense it was, as I talked with agency heads, I think they welcomed the opportunity to have a seat at the table. I think it was the right decision to make. Now, I say that while also acknowledging that there is still frustration out there, and I think moving with speed is the exact right thing to do. Let me real quickly tell you that the monthly meetings are going to be the fourth Thursday of the month. We started on the third Thursday in December because of the holiday. In the first two meetings, the first one will be a week from today in January. We're going to agree upon a charter together of what we are going to do with these agencies, and we're going to be committed to doing that. The other thing in January and February is to communicate the things that are happening at ITS. There are good things happening that we want to communicate. So I think it is a misnomer to think that there aren't good cooperative vehicles, a growth in the use of cooperative vehicles to speed procurements up.
Yes.
That is happening. We have that material. We're going to present it and have conversations and demos with the agencies a week from today and in February, and we would be more than happy to share that with the legislature to let you know that there is work currently being done in addition to this roadmap plan, which is sort of going to have a 2-year window of other changes that we need to make. One other quick comment. The reason that a 2-year window may be in place is because there are contracts with dates on them, right? There are things that sunset, things that need to be renewed. So as the roadmap is put together, there's going to have to be some syncing up of what that looks like as we do that. But when that work is done, or as it is being completed, and some of it will be during the session, we are, as always, more than happy to share.
I appreciate it. As this process goes, and as I have kind of had an opportunity to visit with some of the executive directors of our larger agencies, we've got some very talented people running these agencies, and I'm a big fan of them, present company included for sure. There's just a frustration piece that I see, and that's where, in my words, some of the smoke comes up that we can't get to the root of the problem or don't do as well. So I think it's imperative to have these people as stakeholders in the room. We as a legislature want to do our job. As we've kind of tried to take the layers back on the onion, we've got policy within ITS that has the ability to be peeled back and changed that I know y'all are looking at. And I assume that that's the fluidity piece that we're talking about as we see that. There's legislative action that needs to happen for some of this. And I think hopefully we got everything in for this year that we want to talk about. If not, but there'll kind of be a relationship as we go forward there. But having the stakeholders in the room is imperative. We did the cyber bill last year. We have the stakeholders in the room, and I think we're getting traction in that space. So I think it's imperative that we do that. However we can assist in that, let us doing that. Another element, now I don't want to get too deep in this, but this is top of mind to a lot of people, a lot of frustration. There's another thing that I see happening, again, as from my perspective, with especially some larger agencies, and intent is not this, but the reality is that we've got larger agencies requesting for exemption from ITS to do their own procurement, and some have the skill set to do that, but I caution us on doing that a lot. We fix procurement in ITS, the reasoning for doing that goes away because, as you alluded to in your open comments, we've got a state network, and this stuff, we can't put Dodge parts on a Ford, and we've got to make sure of that, and y'all are the gatekeeper for that. But we've got agencies that have vendors embedded in them, and the agencies are slave to the vendor. And that may not be the right way to say that, but that's a case in point because this is the way it's been. And I think it's important for us to say that out loud and be aware of that. And it's not the vendors are bad, they're not. But you've got legacy systems, or you got something and it's worked for so long, and it's harder to let go, which leads me to procurement. If it's $400 million a year where the agencies come with some of these asks, and I know there's probably going to be some consideration conversation about speed to adapting to cloud based instead of legacy. Any advice for us from the appropriations perspective? Because we will see a lot of asks probably, I think since I've been here, the number is going down, but legacy upgrades. Mm-hmm. Are y'all able to look at those? And I know we've got, I think, the $75,000 mark, but if we've got an agency looking for, they want to put a AS400 or something on site versus cloud, if we got kind of a stopgap in place there that helps us kind of vet that, because from my perspective, from appropriations, if it's legacy, I'm going to ask, what's up, what's going on? Because sometimes the agencies are fully aware of cloud migration and sometimes they're not.
Really well said. I think there's a couple of points to hit on. One, I would expect that any modernization initiative, so Mr. Anderson's initiative at the Department of Human Services, Commissioner Sanders' initiative at the Department of Child Protective Services, those are going to live in the cloud. I think anything that is modernizing a legacy system will, number one. Number two, any other system that we would be looking to migrate has to be assessed for cloud readiness. I think it is a bit of a misnomer that the cloud is magic. There's no pixie dust there. It is an option and it is a platform. You have to assess applications to see if they are ready to do that. In conjunction with our third initiative, a Cloud Center of Excellence, we are working on a cloud framework document, which is what is our position on cloud? Many states have sort of cloud first. You've heard of cloud smart. We've debated sort of a cloud forward strategy. You know, we are here, let's move forward with cloud. But I think those things have to be assessed. I think you have to
Yes.
assess whether they're ready to. So Chairman, I think any sort of legacy modernization piece by default, any vendor that you work with is going to leverage cloud. Let me tell you one challenge. So as dated as mainframes are, and we still have two, a mainframe was a platform,
Mhm.
right? In modern lingo, it's really no different. The cloud solutions are platforms. What's interesting, to be fully candid, is the mainframe was a platform, right? There is no way, most of the states around the country are multi-cloud. We will be too. We are and we will be. So remember, that's the way the world works, right? Whether it's AWS, Microsoft, and Google, you have to have a team that can work on those platforms. So while in some ways this technology is amazing, it also expands the continuum. So I want you to think about ITS right now. We have two mainframes sitting in the data center. We have a private cloud in open systems, and we have two, soon to be three pathways to public cloud, the newest technology that there is. Those bookmarks probably span 60 or 70 years of technology, right? From a
Yes.
mainframe perspective. Now, those things will sunset, and the sunsetting of those systems is highly dependent on the business of an agency, right? As an agency sunsets those legacy systems, and ITS is a provider of services, we will sunset that and move on. Until that occurs, you have to have a team in place across that continuum to provide the technical expertise that's there.
Yes.
So we'd be happy to come back, Chairman Williams, and talk about the cloud experience. Our goal is to have the pathways available for agencies to leverage that and the skills at ITS to be able to do what the agencies need to do. So conversations with Commissioner Sanders, conversations with Executive Director Anderson, we are going to be the pathway with which those new systems are rendered in government, and we welcome the partnership.
Yeah, to me, as I, again, kind of unfold this, you guys being the point of knowledge, as I segue into the AI conversation is, and I'm talking to different people, and as you said, the private sector is selling what AI does, and it's all over the map right now, literally. I mean, some things, and just trying to, the more expertise we have that we can funnel to the agencies, the better, because I think we have agencies that are buying the new shiny coin when that may not be the best fit for them, and we're duplicating sales. And again, we have autonomy in agencies to an extent, so that's not, ITS's responsibility necessarily, but trying to make that resource available, I think, as we go forward and evolve down the AI world, because right now, we can all remember the dot-coms in the late 90s. If you said the word .com, venture capital would throw a lot of money at you, and you didn't have a clue what was going on. I think we're more responsible, societally speaking, as AI comes, but it's there because if you haven't engaged in AI and you go sit in a seminar, as we had a few people do yesterday, it's like, oh my, wow. Oh yeah, just give me a lot of money for this, when that's, trying to meter that as we evolve down this space, which is with the executive order and things that we'll do in there. I think we're traveling the country. I think Mississippi's ahead, and we want to continue to be ahead and be further ahead, which requires these type of conversations. But as that AI comes and implementing that, we want to make sure the agencies and having those opportunities for the agency heads or representatives, CIOs to sit there, I think is imperative. So as that develops, and communicating that with us as well as we go forward with AI, when we need to legislate, we'll be ready.
Let me mention this real quick, which is sort of slightly off topic from a budget hearing, but we are also engaging in a project that we've launched to look at the structure of ITS, right? And what I
Yes.
mean by that is we need a structure that focuses on strategy, a structure that focuses on technical and business architecture. A technical and business architecture isn't a you must do it this way, right? It is a framework which means when you go to innovate, you're innovating within these parameters, right? Many states have it. in a federated state, it makes a lot of sense. And the third leg of that stool is engagement with agencies, planning with agencies and engagement with agencies. And some of that has atrophied. And we want to bring that back, and we
Mhm.
want to create a third leg of the stool at ITS, to really make us the agency that we think our enabling statute tells us we should be, right? Which is engagement, right? When you're the sharing agent, it's engagement. It's not ever telling anybody what to do, but it's getting in the canoe together and rowing in a direction. And I think we aspire to be able to do that. I think the initiatives on the list
Yes.
in 2025 are a start in that direction.
When your December 19th is very illustrative of that. It's a collaborative
Yes, sir.
effort and trying to, we're going to create the mousetrap collectively, we're not going to tell you.
Yes, sir.
Couple more questions. We'll get
Yep.
back to the dollars and that
Yep.
we need to get there. AI and the executive order last week, have you had an opportunity to formulate timelines on inventory and things of that nature to address kind of what y'all were charged with and when we may see something?
I'll let Stephanie take that one.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at ITS, we've really tried to work to get ahead of this.
Yes.
In our relationships with the 49 other states and the activities that we have there, we know that a lot of states have already taken some of the actions that we have now been directed to take. So we formed an internal group within ITS. We're calling AIM, AI in Mississippi. But we have been working on what that inventory would look like, what components, what pieces of information are critical to collect, as well as gathering information related to ethical considerations for the use of AI, best practices that are being implemented in other states, because we really feel like our role right now is to use the information that we have available to us, the resources and assistance that we can gather from other states, and the technical knowledge within the agency to really formulate some strong guidance for agencies so that in these early days of adoption, that we can help to steer them in the right direction for some of these early adoption use cases. So we're well on our way. I don't know exactly when we will, administer the survey for the inventory, but we do have a good bit of that put
There
together.
again, education and awareness, I think, is there. And AI is something that moves so fast. If, we leave here in April, we hope, and we're not back for 9 months, we need to make sure that, you guys are kind of the stopgap between now and then when that happens, I think. And it's just going to move,
So over and above the point that Stephanie made, so the governor signed the order on Wednesday. On Friday, we launched our
Yes.
AI Innovation Hub. Part of our partnership with the hub is the Mississippi Artificial Intelligence Network, which is a fabulous consortia that has been doing great work in Mississippi. Their entire mission in life is workforce education, training, and pipelining. So at that partnership, 2 days after the governor signed the order, I think typifies where our head is.
yes.
Now, Maine's mission is big, right? But we will be meeting with them. We're going to be hosting a joint meeting with Maine in February, focused on state government. So where the order is directed. So I think
Yes.
we have a lot of attention on that, Mr. Chairman.
There again, we're having the stakeholders in the room together on a periodic basis. That's imperative because when we don't, we don't stay on the same page. So thank you and I applaud you for doing that. Okay, last question before we get to budget. Your fifth thing about creation of the fund with the private sector. As Mississippi, I made the comment last week, when we started this journey, I thought we would become a tech destination. We are a tech destination. Evidenced by last week, I think we'll see more tech companies locating to our state. And these companies are very generous with grants and public-private collaborations, and they're already doing it. I don't mean to say they are, but if I'm reading this right, y'all are going to kind of be at the forefront of looking at it, making sure we're leveraging that to the maximum, where there's those opportunities to have it, whether they're directly through things we're doing, but they're going to benefit our people. I think that opportunity is golden when these tech companies come and locate. Of course, they do. They've got a lot of reasons to do it. It's being community partners. It's helping with workforce like Amazon's what they're doing. Just there's so much of that coming here, making sure that somebody's kind of looking at all of it. And am I reading it right that that's kind of going to be happening, you guys? And there'll be other players in the state doing the same thing. So
I would agree. I think the goal here too is, you know, the way ITS is built with hub and spoke, right? The
Yes.
legislature is very generous, kind of give us this hub part, which is the what we need to be ITS.
Right.
The spoke part, right, if we do it right and well, are services at the enterprise scale that agencies can leverage at cost, right? Not only at cost, there's no markup, right? ITS doesn't bill
Correct.
back anymore. So if you think about this, what are the parameters here? If you cut a deal at the highest possible level, agencies, maybe even local governments and universities could use a service, you would get the best possible deal. When that deal is focused and delivered through a spoke, it is at cost and hopefully the best cost for the state of Mississippi. That is our mission in a nutshell. The innovation fund seeks to be just ahead of that enough so that ITS can, in
Yes.
collaboration and engagement, build the kinds of services that agencies need, or at least nudge them in a direction and come back every January and report to you what it is that we're doing so that we can get the folks in the canoe and rowing in the direction. And I think that is a way to sort of talk about not just the tech piece, but the overall structure of how IT is in Mississippi.
Yeah, I think that's great. And as we go forward, you know, the amount of dollars that are available to leverage, because the main, as we reference it, we put some money in that, but we've got some private sector, you know, as far as machines and two big
Sure.
players that are helping them with that. It just allows us to take public dollars and leverage it that much more as we go in the space, and workforce, you know, being at the foundation of that. As long as we've got the workforce and we've got the mechanisms in place, there again, we lead the nation, I think. We will be attracting those companies. We stagnate there or don't do it, and we need to leverage that to our maximum. So trying to get all the dollars that are there, I think is important. If it's okay, let's segue back to the budget and talk about some of these increases we're looking for, if you don't mind kind of breaking those
Yes,
down.
sir. I'm happy to do that. Let me, Holly or Stephanie, I'm not sure if you want to kind of talk specifics on what we're asking for via either people salaries or contractual. Green.
Thank you for the technical support.
You got it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's specific details. Can you guys hear me? It's broken down, as Craig mentioned earlier, and in two major components, which is salaries and contractual.
Yes.
About 10% of our additional request is in the salaries category,
Mhm.
which does include 19 new positions for the new initiatives that Dr. Orgeron mentioned earlier. So around $3 million in the salary line item. And then when you get to the contractual category, it's around 2.7 million. It's a 10% increase. And again, those details are comprised of the 5 new initiatives. I can go as detailed as you need, but I also have the detailed narratives to provide to you. roughly
The pin breakdown, just generally speaking, you know, where will they be? If you can kind of share that with me, just from the standpoint, I know that there have been concerns of, do we have enough staff for procurement? Are we addressing that deficiency if it's there, just so that people know?
So over 25% of the pins will be dedicated to procurement
Okay,
and the new strategy area that Craig said earlier. And then the rest is kind of evenly allocated between the other 5
Okay.
initiatives.
Chairman, real quick, let me mention specific to the procurement. And so, you know, again, we view this as a business alignment issue. right?
Yes.
Spending in technology is up 22 to 30%. Agencies are getting and using tech. One of the missions of ITS is to help them procure it accurately. So what we feel like, it's a people, process, and technology issue, right? So the analysts we have now, from a workload perspective, we would foresee a distribution of that workload, number one. Two, we would foresee the ability for ITS analysts to engage differently, not necessarily from a transactional perspective, but from a consulting sort of arrangement, whereby if there are instructions for use in using a particular procurement vehicle, because the analysts wouldn't be heads down transacting,
Mhm.
they're going to be real engaging with agencies on how to make these decisions best, how to speed that process up. So I think that this is something that we very much need on the people side of people, process, and technology. The process side, we've talked about,
Yes.
right? It's happening. The Modernization Council is going to get there. We're also making some moves on the technology side. So we're replatforming older systems inside of ITS to gain speed. We've implemented Smartsheet as a project management and transparency tool. So we are hitting on those three buttons inside of procurement. This ask, while I absolutely understand is aggressive, really seeks to be an alignment of getting us where we need to be so that we can execute for the legislature.
Completely understand. My last question, I'll turn it over to everybody, the members. You mentioned trying to get salary alignments up in that mid-tier. You know, I know with SEC squared being implemented in the last few years, I hear we've done a much better job of retention and things of that nature. Obviously, some of these things are very intricate and very involved and require a skill set that you don't get in 6 months or a year. The pins satisfy the bodies. Are our salaries at a point that we can have the retention we need to make sure that, you know, we're covering it from that perspective?
I'm gonna let our team talk about that. Let me say one thing first. Thank you. Because their progression dollars have been used. And what I want to say that I think in being back at ITS, the thoughtfulness of what we need to do for the team at ITS, just in my short time back, has been very impressive. And we're very grateful for the legislature to allow us to be able to do that.
I only voted for that. I think the gentleman over here was the author of that, so.
Yes. So, I think we have something in your packet for this, but Stephanie has some good talking points on getting our folks to zone 2.
So I think it's probably the last document in the back of the right side of your packet. It is the state personnel board's 4 zones for salaries.
I got it here somewhere.
So across these 4 zones, when SEC squared was implemented, we think a lot of the benefits in realigning, especially in the IT area and some of the other professional areas across state government, really benefited from the implementation of SEC squared because it helped move the needle in the direction that it needed to go. But within, you know, annual increase limits and budget limits and things, we have tried to take a kind of phased approach to keep working towards getting our staff where they need to be. Not only do they need to be there from a fair compensation point of view for the work that they're doing, but also to be able to retain the right level of talent in without creating inequities within our workforce. So right now we have kind of a 4-year plan to get all of our employees up to the midpoint of zone 2. And you can see the description of zone 2 has minimal prior closely related experience. Outside of procurement, we are not necessarily hiring entry-level staff. For more of our technical areas, we need more experience. So 73% of our staff currently are below that target. So we have some work to do just to get all of our employees up to the midpoint of zone 2.
Does your ask this year accomplish that?
It's working, it's part of that 4-year plan.
Okay,
So
okay.
it's gonna take a little while. It's within the 7% increase per year boundaries. It's going to take a little.
Years, if that happens, you will be at that mid-tier. And you feel that will put you at an attrition level that's tolerable and acceptable?
Then we will move the
Retention,
needle to
nutrition.
the next target, I believe, because
Okay.
within zone 2, only having minimal experience, that's not necessarily the level of staff that we have, nor the level of staff that we want to continue to recruit. So I think once we can get up to that level, we'll reevaluate, but it is going to take a little time to get there.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. Questions from the committee? Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you're chairing this subcommittee because I can't keep up with all the technology discussion. I can keep up with salaries and SEC squared and some of that, but
Yes, sir.
I am grateful that Senator Williams is subcommittee chair here. And a couple of things. One, I'll start with SEC squared. I would think that within your agency, because of the technical nature of the work that you do, that as SPB evaluates those positions, you may move up your needle up a little bit more than some agencies would. And I'm assuming they're evaluating that regularly. It may be something I need to discuss with Kelly or SPB, but let me know. You don't have to do it right now, but let me know if that's been an issue and that's being evaluated, okay?
Okay.
And then as it relates to procurement, I think Senator Williams has covered this and you've covered it well, Craig. Welcome back, by the way.
Thank you.
The procurement issue's been the biggest thing that I hear in my office from other agencies. And I know you're working on that, but I would like to get a timeline. You mentioned the 6-month timeline, but I'd like to get maybe a little bit more granular
Yes.
detail on what that involves and how quickly we can move that, because from my perspective, and Senator Williams and the other members may feel a little bit differently. I think that's the biggest issue that we have.
Yes.
And it's frankly causing some of the agencies to say, look, we just need to go a different route. We got to get away and get out. And that may not be the healthiest thing for the state collectively. So I do need that information to help have those discussions with other agencies. Okay.
Will do.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any others? Again, thank y'all for coming, and you guys are doing a lot of phenomenal work, and there's a lot of phenomenal work yet to be done. So thank you for the diligence in that.
Thank you for having
Y'all
us.
have a great day. Good morning, everyone. It's 10:30, so we'll go ahead and get started with this subcommittee number 13, appropriations and the military budget, what's before us. General Ginn and staff, thank you, gentlemen, for being here. And on a personal note, and on behalf of us here, thank you for what you do for the state of Mississippi. We are very grateful. As I've had an opportunity to visit with you guys at different areas over the last year and a half, it's amazing what you do, and we're grateful for it. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Senator. We appreciate you all certainly having us here today. And to my left here, I have Command Sergeant Major Cook from, he's my state Command Sergeant Major.
Yes, sir.
Originally from Calhoun City, Mississippi, and our CCWO, our Command Chief, Chief Donnie Dukes. And we also have our State Resources Director here, Phil Hardy. We have our LL, General Chris Thomas there as well, and Harrison. And we have our new president from our association back here with us, Dave Barton, as well. So thank you for having us here today. If I may, sir, go ahead and get started. So on this, the one pager here, our general purpose budget fund appropriation there at basically 10.3 million. That equals the three sublines below it for support at 7.1. Our youth challenge program there at 2.4. Again, a little bit of increase there with the youth challenge program, but not a lot at all. Again, about, the wages of our employees, our counselors, our teachers down there at the Youth Challenge Academy. Armed Forces Museum at 775. And that equals, that basically is our basic ask for our general fund. On our, below that is our seat program at 5.3. Basically where a soldier from the Mississippi National Guard can basically get about $10,000 a year to go to school on. And I will say that that's been an excellent program. We've got more soldiers and airmen taking advantage of that today than ever before. And we, to be quite honest with you, we would be probably, instead of 2,000 soldiers short in the Mississippi National Guard today, if not for this program, this seat program, we'd probably be at 3,000 soldiers short. So that's been a very effective program for us, and thank you for that for sure. Our Military Department Readiness Centers fund there at 6 million. That's maintenance and repair. Basically our 60 armories that we have out there within the state of Mississippi. And all those armories are 50-50, 75-25 reimbursement type of armories and program. Below that is the state active duty fund for 500,000. What this is in preparation for a catastrophic event, basically like Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago. If we saw that looming out there, and of course we would wait on the governor certainly to sign the declaration there first, but that would give us a couple of days to load track hose, bulldozers, a preparation piece, trigger if you would, to be able to prepare to respond to a catastrophic event. I remember during Hurricane Katrina, that's something that we did not have in place that would help us certainly respond in a timely manner there. So that total would be about 22.1. Our ask for basic, our basic ask for our budget. Down below that to the left in the green box, our federal funds this year was right at 636 million. 300 million of that would go into our payroll, and basically it's about 1/3 of our force is full-time. So that's certainly a big economic impact, as always, for the state of Mississippi. So that would be our basic ask. Down below that, our economic impact projects would be the $6 million ask for the Armory that got destroyed during the tornado up there. And again, that's a 75-25 reimbursement And we do have the federal funds already for that armory, in hand.
So that's the total cost, 24 million? I'm sorry.
Sir?
So the Amory is 24 million is the total,
It-
only
it
number
is,
that six
and
does it?
We've got all but 6 million of that.
Yes, sir.
In hand from the federal side. The Youth Challenge Academy, we asked last year, for 5 million to improve the infrastructure there. Of course, that program's a little over 30 years old now, and we certainly, have improved that area. But if we can get 5 million this year, that would put us over the goal line, and it would put us where we need to be with the Youth Challenge Academy that basically hadn't had any money spent on it in 30 some odd years. And I will say this about the Youth Challenge Academy that we have at Camp Shelby, out of the 24 throughout the United States, that our academy down at Shelby always is in the top 1, 2, or 3 in the country. So they do a great job down there. So that's our one-time ask. They're equaling about 11 million. The handout, the other handout that you have, you'll go to, and basically the first 2 pages there is just what I went over. If you'll go to the 3rd page where it says, quality of life needs solution, this is our incentive package that we're asking for. I know Representative Carpenter is introducing the STRONG Act, and it certainly come to the Senate for approval, but this is what this is. And the current issue that we have right now is we're 2,000 soldiers short in the Mississippi National Guard. Now, as you all well know, that is a national problem. Recruiting is a national problem. And today, 77% of our high school students throughout this country are not eligible for military service for many different reasons. So there's about 23% out there that we're all trying to recruit. Everyone is a first round draft choice, if you will. And some other National Guard states are building incentive packages so they can recruit more folks into the National Guard.
Yes, sir.
So our incentive package would consist of providing TRICARE Reserve Select for every guardsman that needs that. That's something that's been talked about for many, many years. I know other states are proposing that this session with their legislature. This would be a game changer, and this would be probably as much of a retention tool as it would be a recruiting tool. The issue that we're having, and when we run the numbers, basically the E5s and the E6s with 10 to 12 years. They're of course they're young in their marriage. They've got a couple of kids, and for whatever reason, they're getting out of the National Guard. You know, life is kind of changing for them at this time. So we feel like this would, where it would target every guardsman, it would certainly target those particular cases where, you know, they would want to stay because of the health benefits that they would receive through the Mississippi National Guard. The number 2 part of this incentive package would be a $500 car tag credit for all National Guardsmen. We came up with an average of what a car tag costs throughout the 82 in the state of Mississippi. And that's what we came up with at $500 a credit for a car tag. And maybe we go back and we revamp what the National Guard tag looks like. You know, the one we've got now it's very, very old. And I know the blackout tags have been a huge popular success for the state of Mississippi. And if we could do, you know, change that tag, make it look like an OD green with our crest on it, and something that was.
That's what was in my mind. That's great. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, sir. The third thing there is the state income tax exclusion. Back in the, I guess the mid-90s, if you were in the National Guard, you got a $5,000 tax exclusion on the state tax side. And then back in 2003 or 4, We raised it from 5 to 15, and we would, we're asking, if we could raise that from 15 to 25, since it's been about 20 years since that's been raised.
Yes, sir.
The next page there, again, on the Strong Act, we did some numbers. The single members that we have right now are, right at 2,900. And that would be a close to a $1.9 million investment, and with dependents, would be, about 4,350. And that would, the annual rate there would be about $3,293 per soldier or airman. And that would be a $14.3 million investment, for a total of, 16.1 million to provide health care to all of our National Guardsmen. The car tags, total Guardsmen that we have now today is, of course, 10,600, and at $500, that would be a $5.3 million investment. And then the tax exclusion there, going from 15,000 to 25,000, would be right at $1.7 million total investment, and that would make up this incentive package that we feel like, without a doubt, would make up, and it's not going to happen overnight, but we would be headed in the right direction to get that 2,000 members back into the National Guard. And the bottom line is, what we're looking at is, if we continue to stay 2,000 Guardsmen short in the state of Mississippi, then, from the National Guard Bureau level, they would be looking at us possibly losing force structure. And I'll give you a good example of that right now. We've got 87 M1 tanks in the Mississippi National Guard. 20 of those tank crews are not manned now because we are short Mississippi National Guardsmen. So everybody wants what Mississippi has. We've got an engineer brigade. We've got an aviation brigade. We've got an armor brigade combat team. We've got a special forces battalion. The other states do not have that, and they would love to have it, and they would like to say, hey, Mississippi cannot man the equipment they have now, so why don't National Guard Bureau, why don't you lateral that equipment? And we don't want that to happen, because along with that equipment is jobs that we have here in the state of Mississippi. Sir.
Thank you. Since we're on the Strong Act, I've got a couple of questions on it. The dollars, the 16 million, 5 million, is that reflecting the 12,000 once we fill the hole, or is that just what we currently have?
That's what we currently have.
Okay.
On hand right
So
now.
if we grow that
would
could
need
increase.
to need this TRICARE.
Sure, understood. As you mentioned something that I didn't really think about, the retention component that's in there. Do you feel the strongest part of this is the TRICARE?
Oh, absolutely.
Subsidizing that. That's.
Yes, sir. Without a doubt.
Yeah, kind of that mid part of life, insurance becomes paramount, and TRICARE is about as good as it gets. So
I
that
think
makes
that's
sense.
the one that would, and in talking with my staff, that's the one that would move the needle for us, in a probably more immediately.
Yes, sir.
Than anything else. Yes, sir.
That's great. I appreciate that very much. In the deficit we've got, as you mentioned, I mean, that's national. That's not unique to us. It's just the moment we're in. And I assume that the qualifications to serve are federal qualifications. They're not something we can have an effect on. Is that correct? That 23% of the high school graduates being qualified to serve.
Right.
It's national. It's something
Yeah,
that yes, federal. Yes, sir.
That's
Yes, sir.
correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. To go back to the first sheet, briefly, the state active duty fund, is there anything in that account today?
There's zero.
Okay, I know we had this conversation.
As I understand, Senator, that account was set up, but we never did, we didn't put any money in that account it just makes sense. And again, I hope we don't have a catastrophic event, just like all of us don't, but
Yes, sir.
the last couple of years, we've.
Life says it's coming.
Like it's at some point.
Yes, sir.
And if we don't use it, we don't use it. Certainly wouldn't use it for any other reason.
And I know we had conversation and Chairman may be able to remember, obviously speed to mobilize is something we want to shorten that as much as we can, just having that mechanism. Is it something, happens out of session or something? If we've got a financial mechanism to where that is not delayed, and that may be, Chairman, maybe I'll speak that a little bit. Do you recall, I know we had a conversation on this last year, and it seemed that we felt we might have the mechanism that would allow us to fund mobilization and not delay that. So if not, we may look into that a little bit. Okay. The Youth Challenge Academy, we did appropriate $5 million last year, correct? And we've got 5 million more. Could you kind of briefly go through what's being done with the 5 and what will be done with the 5 requests this year?
Yes, sir. So in that Youth Challenge Academy, it covers a whole block, and there's probably 12 buildings in that block there where the platoons
I've seen them.
of kids are housed, and there's a dining facility in that block as well. Well, we got federal money a few years ago through the mobilization force generation installation process from ForceCom to improve roofs, the HVAC system, everything. In this particular block, we did not, because it wasn't, it wasn't federal. So with the first 5 million that we got last year, we put new roofs on a lot of the buildings. We've improved the HVAC piece of the buildings.
Yes.
But we hadn't done them all. To include the dining facility there as well. And the improvements inside the classrooms, and the classrooms are made out of these buildings as well, these
Yes, sir.
concrete buildings there. It just needs a little improvement, and it certainly helped big time. We got about 50% of it done last year
Okay.
with 5 million, and now this will
We feel
finish
this will
out.
probably predominantly complete us for a while.
Yes,
with
sir.
that.
Correct.
Senator Wade,
Yes.
funds for that youth challenges program, it was, lump sum. They could use it for youth challenges and other projects as well. So all of the funds weren't directed just towards youth challenges. They got to decide how they wanted to prioritize those.
I understand.
5 million wasn't just for that.
Okay.
General, correct me if I'm wrong. I think last year the discussion was some funding for programmatic dollars for youth challenge and some for structural or real property.
No, that's true. That's
So-
right. There was some
right.
programmatic,
There
part of
were
that
two
was taken
two requests.
two for programmatic.
All right.
Betterment
Yeah.
for the facility, for the organization itself.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Mr.
No,
Chairman. I just-
sir. No, sir. Thank you. Thank you for that. The State Education Assistant Program, those dollars requested, is that for additional scholarships, or is that to kind of fill the hole in current scholarships?
Fill the hole for current.
Okay, so it's not an addition,
scholarship.
it's not a net add, it's just to make it whole.
Yes, sir. We actually, again, our soldiers and airmen we've had more and more ask for those benefits, and of course, again, the 3 major colleges in the state, the tuition rates have gone up as well.
Yes,
So
sir.
that'll kind of offset that.
Understood,
Yeah.
understood. The, we've got the Amory $6 million we talked about. I know last year, and I think for several years, we've got several other projects we probably appropriated the dollars. I think Corinth, maybe one in DeSoto County, maybe a couple more. Could you kind of let us know where each of those are in
Right.
construction?
Yes, sir. So at Corinth, the 1.5 million that you all gave us last year, we're on track but it's going to be, through federal monies, probably October timeframe when we do the, add-on to the Corinth facility there. The South Haven, DeSoto County, we should be breaking ground on that in March, and talk to the leaders within that county up there, and it's moving right on. So we got the money for the DeSoto, South Haven Readiness Center up there. March timeframe, we'll kick off on that. And then the Corinth, again, it's going to be a little bit later on in the year, but we'll be breaking ground on doing an add-on to that facility to improve that facility this calendar year.
Great. And was there anything in Meridian?
So at Meridian, at the AASF there, we've got the federal monies, the aviation facility. We got the federal monies to do improvements to that particular air facility. Yes, sir.
Great.
That's going to happen this year. We got that, this summer, so the fire crash rescue
Yes.
monies that's been appropriated, that we'll be breaking ground on that this summer. Thank you, Harris.
Thank you. Thank you, General. Questions from the members? Senator Seymour?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, on the Armed Forces Museum, is this 775,000, is it toward a new museum, or is this just upkeep on the existing?
That's not toward a new museum. It's just salaries and just sustaining what we have there now.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Everybody good? Chairman, Bubba Carpenter, the author of the Strong Act, just walked in. I'd like to welcome you, sir, and thank you for your work on this. If we don't have any other questions, again, General, thank you for what you do for the state of Mississippi and our people. It's much appreciated, sir. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Are there people with the VA here yet? Okay, as soon as they get here, we'll begin. If everybody kind of hang close, if you don't mind. appreciate you being here. If y'all want, that the VA people are here, we'll go ahead and kind of get started and we'll get everybody out here just a few minutes earlier. Thank you much. Yes, yes. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. Director and your staff, I'd like to thank y'all for being here and appreciate all that you do. So I know we've got, I think, a couple of budgets that we'll talk about the way it's broken down. So I'll just yield the floor to you and it's yours.
Good morning, sir. Thanks for having us this
Yes, sir.
morning. We at Veterans Affairs are constantly providing superior support to our veterans, their families, caregivers, and their survivors. And we thank you all very much for your support for our programs that we do and to take care of our veterans. First, I'd like to introduce the staff that we have with us here
Yes.
today. I have Mr. Tommy Smith, who is our Deputy Executive Director, Ms. Demetrius Watts, who is our CFO, Ms. Caroline Kennard, who is our Director of Logistics, Mr. Chris Ellis, who is our Legislative Liaison and our Head of our claims for our disability claims, and Jordan, who is our Executive Assistant, who keeps us all in the right direction. First, I'd like to start off by the first slide. What we have on there is what we were given last year with the state fiscal year 2025 budget. For 2026, we're requesting level funding, except for we're requesting $6 million for the startup for the tradition home. And the reason for that is they're having a meeting today and hopefully we will get final approval to accept that building to start. But there's many logistics issues that have to take place. We have to make sure that all the supplies and the furniture and everything is in there. And it went through the life safety and the health inspection this week. And there's some things that have to be fixed. So we're asking for $6 million because the VA has to come in and do a survey, which is an inspection, and they're not going to be able to get to us until late May or early June. And we will need that money to start up because until we get finished with that certification survey, the VA will not reimburse us on per diem. So we're asking for that money for startup cost. We probably, our intention is we probably won't use all that money, but just in case we need that money to get going before the VA finishes all their paperwork to get the certification done is the reason we're asking for
If
that.
the certification comes, will they pay you back for some of that money that
No,
has been
sir.
spent? So it'll start, payment will start once the cert happens.
Yes, sir.
Do you anticipate that certification going well? I know when we visited last year, the stringency of that in some areas have been a big concern.
Yes, sir. Well, we're hoping, and talking to the VA representatives in Washington, they're re-looking at the way that they do the initial certification surveys because the way it currently is if you have one tag, which is one deficiency, you fail the entire survey. So they're in the process right now of redoing the certification process. So hopefully they will do it like they currently do our current homes,
Yes.
that if you have a deficiency or a tag, they call it, that we can write a corrective action plan. And if they accept the corrective action plan, then we can start drawing the per diem reimbursement at that point in time.
When you anticipate those rules being rewritten?
We're hoping before the May or June survey.
Okay, good.
That's what we've been hoping for and kind of what they've alluded to in Washington, but you can't nail them down to a positive answer.
Things are going to change a little bit up there Monday, good or bad. I know it's going to be a little administrative thing, so
Yes, sir.
hopefully good.
And we're asking for a one-time funding of $375,000 in capital expense fund money. We have a Gulf War memorial at our Newton Cemetery that was built in 2011. It's paid for by state taxpayer dollars, that the weather has really been hard on it, and it really is getting in bad shape because of the way it was designed and the way it was built. Water has gotten down in between some of the exterior And when the water gets in there and then it freezes, we all know it expands. And we're really not doing a good service to our veterans who have sacrificed during the Gulf since 9/11.
Yes.
So we've asked for $375,000, and that estimate comes from an A&E firm that went in and evaluated it. And what the concept is to completely remove the current one and come back with one that will not be as weather susceptible as the current one is, to go back and redo that. So it's just a one-time request for that money. On the next slide, the ACA penalty every year due to agency contract nursing, and with the nursing shortages that we still continue to have, the ACA IRS penalty has been assessed on the agency. This penalty started out at 1.097 million. The Attorney General's office and Butler Snow have worked feverishly, just like they have the last couple of years, and they have gotten it down to 740,000. But as of the end of December, we were trying to get ready for this presentation and for this session, and we asked them, do we need to go ahead and pay that so we can ask the legislature for reimbursement, like we always get it reimbursed, but not on our appropriation bill, but on a different bill that you have. And as of the end of December, they asked us to hold off on that.
Yes.
But I just wanted to put that out there in case they come to a resolution, because they're still trying to get it reduced from the IRS. So that may come up before the end of the session, and it may not. But we will let you know. I just wanted to kind of put
Okay.
that out there. And last year we had asked for an exception to buy ADA accessible buses and vans, because when we do reverse auction, we continuously are having to pay a significant amount of money more than what you can go out on the free market and buy them. And there was legislation introduced, but unfortunately it didn't pass. Just kind of as an example, our nonprofit organization, Friends of Mississippi Veterans, that support us every year with a skeet shoot and a golf tournament, they have provided 4 vans for us at an average cost of $69,000. We just went through the reverse auction process and bought 2 vans for the Tradition Home at a cost of $119,000 a piece. So there's a significant cost that we have to incur going through the reverse auction process that Friends of Mississippi Veterans does not, because they just go directly to the vendor and get it.
Can you kind of speak to why that is, or why you see that is, and simply put, as you know, we're in the midst of trying to look at different procurement mechanisms.
The only thing that we can assume is that the reverse auction process, there's only certain vendors that will do business with the state of Mississippi like that. And they just, I'm assuming that they'll know that they can charge us more to do that than.
I mean, would you assume that vendor that charged us $119,000 probably had the same cost as the vendor that charged the other people $69,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We just asked that maybe be considered. But thanks to Friends of Mississippi Veterans, they've donated 4 vans now.
Yes, sir.
Senator Tate was with us in Kosciuszko when they donated the one up there last year. So it's a really good thing for us to help get our veterans safely from medical appointments and different things. Next slide, construction projects. Tradition is still ongoing. As a matter of fact, they're having a meeting down there right now to determine if they're going to determine if there's substantial completion for us to get the keys. Once that happens, then we have a tremendous amount of work that has to be done to get all the commodities and all the other stuff in there. We've worked for several months to get the contracts ready for food service, for all the other things that we have to have. The physician, the medical director, all the other pieces. We started the hiring process for certain staff several months ago, but we ran into some delays, so we just stopped. So if we can get substantial compliance and completion today, then we'll start that process back, and it'll take a little bit of time. But we have some money left over from what y'all gave us last year.
Yes.
To buy commodities and stuff that we can fund ourselves from now through 30 June with that, by hiring and training and doing all those things.
Okay.
Before the survey starts. So we're good. That's the reason we're just requesting the 6 million for July the 1st that hopefully we won't need at all. But just in case, because if we don't get it in the appropriation bill, then the next chance we get will be next session. You know, we don't have the funds to go for 6 months without doing that. And it costs us on the average of about $1 million a month per home by the time you do salaries and commodities and all the other services that we have to do. Unfortunately, we didn't get the funds for the Jackson home this year. We were 13th on the list. You all have been gracious and have given us all the money the state can give, plus last year you gave us $2.5 million more to try to entice the VA to give us some money. But unfortunately, there was $340 million that they had for construction money, and they gave California $200 million of that. So it knocked us and 4 or 5 other states out of building current homes.
Do you know what we were ranked last year?
They funded down to 10. We were 12. They funded the year before, they funded the first 9 and we were 12. This year they funded the first 10 and we were 13.
Okay.
But we're hoping, since some changes are going on in Washington
sir.
right now, that we can take care of that. I've talked to Congressman Guest and his staff,
Yes, sir.
and they are pushing real hard to make that happen. So,
Please continue
yes, sir.
pushing.
Yes, sir. So, but thanks to the legislature, we have all of our money. The plans are almost finished. The land's been dedicated. Everything's ready to go. The environmental assessment's been done. The archaeological assessment's been done. So all we're waiting on, if we could get our hands on the federal money, we could basically start tomorrow, because DFA allowed the architect and engineer to finalize the plans. So the day we get the money, it'll be shovel ready, as they say, and we can move forward.
That process was efficient, in your opinion, with DFA and the architects as you went through that design
Oh, yes,
phase and
sir.
everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Really awesome. We've been able to make some great repairs and do some great things. We're still working on the homes, because the one in Jackson was built in 1988. The others were built in the 90s, early 90s. We're scratching around and trying to find money for flooring and wall repairs and, just some things to spiff up the inside of it for the veterans. When they built the homes, they put wallpaper in the rooms, and it looked good the first couple of times while they were hanging pictures. But after about the 3rd rotation, it really didn't do well. So on the tradition home, we didn't put any wallpaper in any of the rooms so that the maintenance crew can come in and spackle the holes for the pictures. And so that's some lessons learned, but we're trying to look at different things like that. Our maintenance crew is constantly evaluating and looking. On the next slide, Caroline, our director of logistics, met with a company the other day to look at the floors. The floors in the homes are really old, and you can only strip them and wax them so many times. And the problem that we're having right now is finding somebody that knows how to strip and wax the floors. So when we did the improvements to the Collins home, we put no wax floors in there. And when we built the tradition home, we put no wax floors in there too, for that reason. So Caroline met with a company the other day to try to get some ideas on what it would cost us to go in and replace the flooring, because that floor is so old and that old tile, I'm sure it's probably got asbestos in it. So the best thing to do would probably be just to cover over it. And with the new stuff that they have now, that's one of the projects that we're looking for. But thanks to the legislature, we're getting a new roof in Oxford. It's almost complete. The $1.7 million project. The boilers in the homes, that project has started and should finish in July to replace all the boilers in the homes. We replace food service equipment as needed. HVAC replacements, you gave us the money to replace the complete HVAC system in Oxford and in Kosciuszko, because those systems are costing us tens of thousands of dollars a year to repair, and they're getting to the point now that we can't find replacement parts for them. So we got that money to do a complete replacement in Oxford, a complete replacement in Kosciuszko, and to replace the chiller in Collins. We're not replacing anything in Jackson, hoping so we don't want to spend any money there. We're also looking at, we need to improve the resident showers and the residents floors in the shower rooms, because they're that old grout and tile, and they're just really getting to where we can't hardly clean them. And then updating the resident rooms. So we're working through those processes to make sure that our veterans are taken care of in those matters. The next slide, some of the other things that we've done. We've had vehicle replacements. We're working really hard. I wish we could figure out a way to not have to go through the reverse auction, because that would enable us to purchase more vehicles, get more bang for our buck. Wound care nurse training, as we all know, in nursing homes, bed sores and things like that are very critical to our residents. So we send our staff to wound care training, which costs about $8,000 per nurse to go to get certified and then to get recertified. Increased costs due to inflation. As we all know, things go up. Nursing costs they're not as high as they were, but they're still, we're still not competitive with the civilian sector. Now we have to pay for COVID, RSV, and flu shots. COVID shot currently is $128.76. Flu shots are $64. RSV shots are $26, and pneumonia shots are $248. During COVID, we didn't have to pay for those, but now we do. Increase VA survey scrutiny. They continue to, when they come out, they wrote us up in Oxford for dirty mop buckets. That's the kind of scrutiny that we're
Understood.
doing.
If you don't mind me just kind of inserting right here, I think some people may be a little time limited. I think we may have a question or two from
Okay.
Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few questions. One is back to the Tradition property, the $6 million you're requesting for that to get done. That's not on a waiting list of any sort. If that's done, will it automatically be funded by the feds?
If we pass the survey, yes, sir, we'll automatically get the per diem reimbursement. But since their survey is not going to be till sometime in May or June, and then it takes them a week or so to come down there and do the survey, then they have to go back, and if there's a tag on it, then they have to come back and do another survey. But hopefully they'll change the rules so we don't have to do that.
But if we pass the survey, you'll get the federal funds,
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
And that's different than the Jackson issue, because I know we put the money up for Jackson, but that's you're telling me that we're still on a waiting list of some sort, or have we been eliminated from that?
Oh, no, sir. We're still on the list for the Rankin County / Jackson
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
The VAs, like everybody else, they only have so much construction money.
Okay.
So they look at what they figure are the top priorities, who needs it the worst or who needs it the most. And they just have a list. And this past year, there was 152 projects on the list, and we just happened to be
didn't make the
13th.
cut.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. But
All
we're
right.
still on the list and we're still good.
All right, let me ask you about the van. That just blows my mind on the van deal. Is there not an exception? I mean, I haven't looked at the procurement rules. There's no exception with DFA that if you determine that the price is so much more, that we can stop the reverse auction process and get to a direct purchase. That just makes absolutely no sense.
We could go out and do an emergency purchase.
Yeah.
Because of
Yeah,
that.
you'd have to declare an emergency of some sort to do that, I think, but
If you look at the rules in PPRB to declare an emergency, if the floor was falling out of the bus or, if it just
I know.
completely broke down, and we're not quite to that point yet, but we have some buses that are 2012s. We put an average of 11,000 miles a month on these vehicles. And even there's a bus, sometimes the floors will get weak because those wheelchairs rolling on them. And
we just need, if that's an issue, we need to look at that internally here through our legal staff because that just can't be tolerated to go pay 50,000 extra for a van. We can get it.
yes, sir.
I'm not blaming you. That's
Yes,
a
sir.
problem we've got internally if there's no emergency exception. Real quick on the ACA payments. I'm tired of going through on the floor every year and having to explain. Is this our last year for that?
I think we may have one more year, because I think this is 20.
I know you inherited that problem, but
Yes, sir.
I'm tired of having to go up on the floor every year and explain that we're paying a penalty for something that the ACA hit us on.
Yes,
And
sir.
are all the nurses, all the contracts,
Yes,
are
sir.
all the contract employees covered now? Everything's good
Yes,
on
sir.
that?
And when we bring them on, we make them sign a statement, whether they want the insurance or don't want the insurance. And the way it's done is if they want it, then they have to pay for it. So we now have it in writing so that when the Attorney General's office in Butler Snow goes back and forth with the IRS, we have something in writing that we did offer them insurance. They turned it down.
We need to talk with Butler Snow then about this issue then.
And
Okay.
they're working really well with us. Yes, sir. They
All right. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Please continue.
Okay. Okay, IT costs, we had to replace, we're having to replace our electronic health record system. The system that we had just all of a sudden decided that they were going to go out of business. So we had to go, ITS worked with us great. They're helping us through all this. We had to do an emergency contract to get a company in here for 1 year. Tommy worked with ITS and the procurement people, and they got us through that first year. So now Tommy and his crew are working to see if we get a long-term contract with the current company that we have. And so they're doing really well. With the new HVAC replacement systems in the homes in Oxford and Kosciuszko, we're going to require some IT upgrades because every room will have a sensor in it so that I can sit at my desk and pull it up and control the temperature in room C116, just like the home in Tradition has now. So Tommy and his crew are looking at what's it going to take to upgrade our current systems in our homes to make sure that we have enough capacity to handle those extra IP addresses. Because at Tradition, we had to add 250 IP addresses just for the HVAC system because every room has its own sensor or whatever the IT terminology is. So we're looking at that. We already talked about cost to stand up the Tradition home. Increased fuel costs. You know, when you're putting up 11,000 miles a month on vehicles and tires, and you know, and they're getting old. We got some 2012 buses that are they're just getting old and tired. And worst thing that could happen to us is have a vehicle broken down on the side of the road with veterans in it.
Absolutely.
Increased maintenance costs for infrastructure and vehicles. Last calendar year, we spent $909,000 just on infrastructure maintenance and vehicle maintenance. Because the stuff is old, it's hard to get parts for it. So thanks to the legislature and DFA working with us on the HVAC, because usually the biggest cost that we have, that process is fixing to go out for bid according to DFA. And as soon as they get that done, we'll have to work with the homes because when they go in and they're going to change everything out. So we'll have to go in and move residents out of rooms so they can get in there and fix whatever they need to fix and replace all that stuff. And then when they get that hallway fixed, then we'll have to move from another hallway over there. So it's going to be
Do it by wing.
Sir?
Do it by wing, if you will.
Yes, sir.
How many rooms is in a wing? 30 or so, or
Something like that. Yes.
displacement? Okay, so that's a lot of displacement.
So what we've had to determine is if we can reduce to 125 residents, the homes will hold 150 residents. We reduce to 125, that's a wing. So we get that wing done, then we can rotate over until we get them all done.
What is the time frame once a wing shuts down to the time they're done? Are y'all kind of pressing them hard to have that as short as possible?
Yes, sir. One of the things that Caroline and her crew and the engineers have looked at is, can they start in Oxford and do a wing there and then go down to Kosciuszko and do a wing there? That way that'll give us time to move the residents from one to another. Because one of the things that we find is, you know, if it was you or I, we could just move to a different room. Well, with the veterans with their age and they get anxious and there's other things
Yes,
that are involved in just moving that resident to a new
it's a
room.
slower process
Yes, sir.
by
So
necessity.
what they're trying to do is work with the contractor, and the contractors seem to like it because they can keep their crews busy. They spend a week or two in Oxford getting this hall fixed and then move down to Kosciuszko and start working on that hall. But by the time they get that one in Kosciuszko fixed, we can have the Oxford residents moved and they can come back and do that. And so that's the plan that we're working on.
No,
right
that
now.
fluidity is really good with the contractors and being able to work with them. And as you deal with issues, these homes, there's a lot of maintenance issues. If you run into things where you see obstructions due to our regulations or statutes, let us know. I
Yes,
mean, as we're going to be looking at trying to make that a better process, like we are with procurement in the state, reverse auctions. Now, I think highway robbery should be a reason for emergency contract personally, because that's what it is. But as the chairman said, we need to be looking into that pretty earnestly, but also with contracting as we do it. If there are obstacles you think that we need to remove, let us know.
Yes, so, but DFA is great. I mean, they work.
Oh, yeah,
with
they're
us.
good folks. It's,
Those folks bend over backwards to take care of us every day.
well, you know, we want everything right and we have what we have to do, but sometimes you have policy that lays on top of something. Sometimes you have statutes and we just need to, you know, we're gonna be trying to take a hard look at them, and it's difficult enough for you guys to do the job you're doing. And it's an exceptional job. If we can relieve some of that, we want to do it.
Yes, sir. You know, not to beat on the table or anything, but the vehicle thing's what gets us. The rest of it we can comply with on reverse auction, like beds and other things, but it's just really,
There's a lot of conversation, and discourse in and around reverse auction. There's positive conversation on both sides of it. This obviously is a fail. And there needs to be at least a workaround or something that we can do to deal with this. I mean, like I say, you got veterans. You put them, you got a July day. That's not a good day when you broke down.
yes, sir.
You need to have a good, up-to-date fleet.
Yes, sir. And some of the improvements that we've made, thanks to the funding that you all have given us, is we're in the process of replacing the nurse call system in the Oxford home. ITS is helping us with that. The fire panels, we replaced all the fire panels, got all them updated in all the homes. All the smoke detectors, the fire suppression systems in the kitchens have all been redone. So I just personally want to thank all of you for making sure that our veterans are safe and taken care of, and some of this stuff has been neglected for a long time.
And these are life safety systems. They're,
Yep.
they're imperative.
and we've been able to do that. And it's slow, but it's working and it's right, and that's what we care about.
Yes, sir.
It's safe for the veterans. And just to kind of recap on the last slide, we just asking for the level funding for the general funds, the capital expense funds for the Gulf War Memorial, and then the tradition startup cost. We won't know till we do the survey in June whether we need those or not. But my concern is, you know, the only way we can get money is for you all to give it to us. And if something blows up,
That's right.
it'll be next January before we can do that. And we were just hoping that we could stick it out there. If we need it, we use it. If we don't, then
Well, like the previous, speakers, you know, we need to make sure you're able to mobilize immediately
yes, sir.
and not be restricted by funds,
Yes, sir.
and make sure that mechanism's there.
Sir, continuing your questions, that's all I have.
I think I've asked them as we went from my perspective. Does any of the, members have questions? Mr.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Seymour.
Chairman. Mark, in the past, we've had an astronomical amount of money put out to subsidize Jackson Water for the Jackson home. Are we still incurring that cost?
What we did, sir, is we went and Caroline and her crew went out and we installed 4 5,000-gallon water tankers. And 2 of those tankers, and we got the Jackson Fire Department, and we got Chad Moore. He's an engineer that does a lot of water stuff with the state. So he determined we needed 4 5,000-gallon water tankers. 2 are dedicated solely to fire suppression. So when the water in Jackson kicks off, the pumps kick on, and the fire suppression system has the proper amount of pressure that's required so we can keep residents in the home. The other 2 are for domestic water, for toilets and other things that we have. And we have a standing contract with a company called 4D, and also a backup plan with General Bobby Ginn, that if we need water, they will haul us water, and we have a water pump that'll take the water from the 5,000-gallon water tanker, pump it over into the 5,000-gallon tanks, so we can keep operating. But yes, we hope we've solved that problem. We had to use it last December when the freeze came, and it worked perfect. We had to go back and make a few modifications on the pressure, especially on the domestic water, because it was a little too high, and we were afraid it was so high that it might bust some of the pipes. Yeah. So we had to go back and get a reducer put on it. But other than that, yes, sir, we're good.
But y'all are incurring a cost for the maintenance and all this.
It costs us about $200,000 to get it done. Then the only cost that we have now is for when the contractor comes and brings us additional water. But General Ginn he told me, he said, man, we got 5,000 gallon water tankers at Camp Shelby. He said, just call me. They'll be there in 2 hours.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Anybody have anything else? Again, I want to thank you and your staff for being here and thank you for what you do for the state of Mississippi and for our veterans.
Yes,
We
sir.
can't do enough. Y'all have a great weekend.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
support.
Yes, sir. With that, what do we need? Rise and report? Thank you.